Hey guys, Sean here at the Gardener Center. One of the things that I really love about doing these videos is I get to talk to a much bigger audience when there's questions to be addressed. Obviously people come in the store and ask questions, they send emails, they make phone calls. So this week, in continuing with my theme of trying to address what are people asking me this week in the nursery, I'm going to be talking about a specific group of plants, and this kind of ties in a bit with Joy's video that she did last week about bringing in your house plants, because it's starting to get cold out and we're a week or two away from our first frost. So this week I'm going to talk about a group of plants that aren't house plants, but if you want to keep them till next year, you'll want to bring them in the house. I'm talking about things like hibiscus, mandevillas, gardenias, citrus like lemons and oranges and limes. So if you're interested in bringing them in and keeping them till next year, stick around. So this group of plants that I'm talking about this week is kind of unique as far as plants go, because they're not annuals and they're not house plants. We sell them as annuals in the springtime, and you guys buy them usually as annuals. Now an annual, of course, think about like impatiens or petunias. An annual is a plant that's going to germinate, grow, flower, set seed, and live its entire life in 1 year and then die. And you replace them every year because they only live for 1 year. These plants that we're talking about today, the hibiscus and the mandevillas, etc., these are plants that in warmer climates would be perennials or evergreen shrubs. So the only reason they're an annual here is because it's too cold for them to survive the winter. So they need to be brought indoors for the winter, but here's the caveat. They're not house plants and they don't like being indoors. So to get these guys through the winter and to be successful, you kind of have to lower your expectation bar. So I'm going to tell you how to be successful with them and not lose hope. Okay, so maybe this past spring you bought a couple of gardenia standards and you stuck them in your pots outside by your pool with the intention of letting them be a seasonal feature. And you fell in love, you're not ready to say goodbye. I've been there, it happens, and you want to give them a try inside the house. So here's the deal. This applies to all the plants we're talking about. Anything that would qualify as a patio tropical, like those plants I said that aren't really annuals, they just die here because it's too cold in the winter. Got to get them in before first frost. Even when the nights start getting colder, this mandevilla over here has been outside. I just dragged it in this morning, and you can see its leaves are starting to yellow already because the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting cooler. Let them cycle down a little bit and bring them inside the house before that first frost, a week or two from now. Get them inside. Now, again, houseplants are houseplants because they are typically foliage plants, and they are typically plants that grow in nature, in the jungle, underneath big trees in a really shaded situation. That's why they're able to handle the low light conditions inside of a house. These guys, think about where you had them all summer at your house. They were outside in unlimited sunlight, they had high humidity, they were getting their leaves rinsed off regularly by the rain. Now you're bringing them inside. They're not happy about that because these are high light plants. So unless you live in a greenhouse or you have a greenhouse or a conservatory, as soon as these guys come inside, and it's the reduced light and the reduced humidity that really don't care for that. So you don't want to expect these plants to thrive indoors over the winter. You don't want to encourage them to grow by feeding them or watering them extra. In a perfect world, if I were bringing this gardenia tree in my house for the wintertime, I would want it to look just like this when I take it back out again in the springtime. It won't, but I would want it to look just like this. A lot of these plants are going to lose leaves over the winter because of the lack of humidity and the change in light conditions. The biggest heartbreaker of all of them are the citrus, the lemons and the oranges and the limes and such. People love to have them outside on their patio during the summertime, but then you got to bring them in October, and citrus trees flower in spring and summer. They set their fruit in the summertime. And when's citrus harvest in Florida? It's October to May. That's when your fruits are setting and developing, but rarely works inside the house if you don't have a greenhouse and you don't have that highlight. So the deal with these guys, again, don't expect a lot. Just bring them in. Don't feed them, don't overwater them. If you have a cooler place in the house, cooler is better. Unheated sun porch, just somewhere where where they're not going to go below freezing, but they don't have to be 80, 90 degrees inside the house. You don't want to encourage them. Definitely don't want to feed them, and you can definitely let them dry out between waterings. You can prune them back a little bit if you need to control their size or make them a little more manageable. But keep in mind that pruning encourages growth. So if you can skip the pruning, no feeding. And also, watch out for bugs, because bugs love stressed out plants. And these guys are going to get stressed out in the house. They're almost always going to end up with mealybugs or spider mites. So keep your eyes peeled for those throughout the winter. Keep your fingers crossed. Lower your expectations a bit and pull them back out in the spring. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.